Hi, I'm Karolina Norée and I'm a wildlife photographer. I am originally from Sweden, but I've been living in South Africa for the past 6 years, so if my accent confuses you, then now you know. My wildlife photography journey started when I first came to South Africa in 2016. Then I had already an interest in photography and just enjoyed it as a hobby and so on, but then coming to South Africa and being in Kruger National Park, seeing these wild animals and being able to capture them on photos, I was very much trying to convey the feeling of seeing these wild animals to my friends and family back home. And I think that is still what I try to do today, is simply explain what it feels like being in the presence of these incredibly fantastic animals. And that's kind of how it started, and then it just grew from there. It obviously started as a hobby, and then I was working in the lodge industry for a while, so that made it possible for me to be in the bush and then doing photography on the side, growing that skill as I was living in the bush but working at a lodge. And then after that, I started my Instagram. Again, being inspired by other photographers really helped, and that just kind of grew from there, eventually being able to build a business out of it and get to where I am today. Absolute number one technical skill, and this might sound like an general thing, but is knowing your specific equipment and knowing exactly how to utilize your specific camera and lens for the opportunities that are presenting themselves. And also knowing exactly how to change the settings of your specific camera and equipment, because in wildlife photography, we shoot things that happen very quickly. There's always action, and even when an animal is just walking like kind of slowly towards you, it is a lot faster than you might expect, and you need to be able to quickly change settings back and forth and know exactly where the buttons on your camera is. So I would say that is one of the most essential things from a technical point of view. One thing that pops into mind was a couple of years ago, I had a wonderful sighting of a leopard, but it was very late afternoon on quite an overcast afternoon, so the light was very soft. I was also shooting with equipment that doesn't deal with noise very well, so I was trying to keep my noise to a minimum. And while trying to do that, all I could kind of do was bring down my shutter speed and try to stabilize my camera on the side of the vehicle, trying to keep the camera steady as I shot with a shutter speed of, I think it was 1/20, which is not fast enough for wildlife usually. Usually you want to keep a shutter speed that is about the same as your focal length. So if you're photographing at like 400 millimeters, which I was at the time, then you want to keep a shutter speed of 1/400 minimum. So that just shows you that I had to slow down my shutter speed quite a lot. However, I was very lucky that this leopard was very curious about the vehicle and was sitting really still, looking straight into the lens for long enough for me to be able to still get a decently sharp photo with such a low shutter speed. But yeah, it was definitely one of those moments where I'm like, I do not know if this shot is going to come out the way that I want it to, but just making sure that I was keeping still, dealing with the conditions at hand. And as I said earlier, the disadvantage of my specific camera, I still managed to get a really cool shot. A big part of my job is being active on social media anyway, and I do enjoy social media for a lot of different reasons. And one of them is staying up to date with what other photographers are doing, getting inspiration from other photographers. I follow a lot of other people in the field, not just wildlife photographers, but other type of photography as well, and content creation in general. So that definitely helps to stay up to date with different trends and new techniques that are coming out, and getting inspired by other photographers. When it comes to the ethical side of things, I think a lot of discussions also go on social media, but I also listen to a lot of different podcasts where people are discussing these type of things. And because ethics in wildlife photography, there's no set rules, for what's ethical or not. There's certain things that are frowned upon and certain things that aren't, and so on. There's only set rules when it comes to entering into competitions and stuff, and that gives us a little bit of a framework. But a lot of it comes from like listening to other people and hearing the discussions and taking part of the discussion of, especially now when we're talking about the new technique with AI, keeping part of the discussion and understanding what's going on with AI so that we can figure out what is ethical and what isn't when it comes to those side of things. I've had such an amazing time here for the past 24 hours with the open window students. I think the number one thing that stands out for me is how incredibly welcoming everybody is, and it seems like it's such a wholesome group of people to be around, and I think that's where creativity can really thrive. So that's been really inspiring to see. And in general, I think what I want to, the message I want to send to the open window students is to simply just keep on going out there and be creative. Try to, go out in nature and just be inspired by nature and try to photograph anything that, catches your eye. The big thing when it comes to, if you want to get into wildlife photography, is simply practicing on the small things first before you try to go out and capture the bigger, rarer animals, because you really need that skill that you can get from capturing and practicing on the small things, like in birds in your garden, or if you have squirrels around, or any type of animal around. It can be a pet as well. Just practicing on that, learning those crucial skills, and then when you're able to go out in the field and photograph those bigger, rare animals, like things like leopards and elephants and lions, then you will know exactly what you're doing, and you'll be able to capitalize a lot better on the opportunities that you get out in the wild, because you have that practice backing you from at home in your very comfortable environment with your camera.